I had hoped to demonstrate the use of Zygrib using real weather, but here we are on the 9th of February with gales forecast everywhere. Nevertheless, I'll see what I can do to demonstrate the way in which Zygrib can be very useful. I'm making an imaginary trip with a friend in his Hardy 36 from Southampton to Treguier. So I've already got Southampton marked. I have Channel Light Vessel marked as a matter of course, and what I'm going to do is to mark another point at the entrance to the Treguier River. And I've just got to zoom across until I get to it. This is one of the less good features of this software. You'll see the map is all a bit craggy. It's a bit like the London Underground map, but it's perfectly adequate for weather purposes. I'll zoom it in a bit further. That's the Treguier River there. But what I've done is I have looked up the lat and long of a buoy at the entrance, which we'll almost certainly be using as a waypoint. And over here you'll see that the cursor lat and long is showing up. So I can move the cursor until it shows the correct figures. 48.55, that's close enough for that, and 307.98. Can I get that to go? Yeah, look at that, that's much closer. Right click, mark point of interest, and the name of the buoy is Jument des Eaux. Okay. Right. I've heard the shipping forecast on the radio, and I know that there are gales about. So I'm going to have a long view and make a decision as to whether or not this trip can go ahead. The skipper wants to go tomorrow, starting on Saturday, but I'm going to have a look and see whether I like that idea. So the first thing I will do is move the map until I can see most of the shipping areas, and that'll give me a good overview of the weather. Right, there's Iceland. I've gone a bit far to the south. I think that's probably good enough. And I draw out a rectangle for the weather data I want. Now remember, you might be downloading this in a foreign port on your mobile phone or using your mobile phone as a modem, where there are roaming charges. So you want to make these files as small as you possibly can, and gribs are a very good way of doing that. Right, let's ask Zygrib to go and get that data for us. What data? Well, there's wind at 10 meters, which is masthead height, mean sea level pressure, temperature, don't think we need isotherm, wind gust, cloud cover, and total precipitation. That's quite good. All this stuff is professional forecasters information. I don't know how to make the best use of it, so we'll have none of that. But on the wave side, significant wave height, maximum waves, swell, and wind waves. Important to distinguish between those two, and the whitecap probability. That seems to be good stuff. Now, because we're having a long look ahead, I don't really need this to be more frequent than every 12 hours. And I want a long look ahead, so I'll go out to the maximum 10 days. And then I'll ask Zygrib to go away and get that information for me. Now, before we save this, I just want you to make a note of the file sizes of similar files that I've actually downloaded earlier of more or less the same information. And as you can see, it is 1 megabyte. Now, that, believe me, is quite small. But we're being asked to save the map we've just set up, the weather map we've just set up. And you'll see it's offering us a file name of 2018-0209, which is today's date, and a time of 10:45. That's okay. So we'll save that. Zygrib then produces the map that looks like that. There is a display of all the data. File information, there it is. Now, if you remember, it said that the file size was 1 megabyte. This one's going to be 821 thousand, just 0.8 of a megabyte. But if we come down here, we will see that we have got 425 data points. It's huge. It's a massive amount of data for all of this for 10 days ahead. And it is already saved in a place where Zygrib can find it. We can come back to that data at any time in the future. So what I'm going to show you from now on are the sort of things that you can do to have a look at the overall weather situation or the detail. The first thing to note is that wherever you put the cursor, let's put it down there in the middle of the channel just north of Cherbourg, and over on the left here and the panel you can see it's suggesting that that particular time the wind will be gusting to 32 knots and that the cloud cover will be 92%, temperature 5.9, and the pressure that. Wind direction is blowing force 7, so that's a pretty good quick idea. But one of the things we can do is to produce an animation of that 10 days weather. So we go up to the Create Animation button and click on it. And it goes away and makes that animation. Now, I like this set to fairly slow. It's fairly slow there. And I'm going to play this through. Now, that's currently showing color code for the wind strength and the isobars. And as we can see, looking at the panel at the top left, by Wednesday or Thursday, we're getting really strong winds through the channel. This is not looking at all promising for this passage. Now, if I want, I can actually save that animation, those set of 10 images, and they can be put together as an animated GIF file into a video. But I don't need to do that now. I can do that maybe in 3 months' time when I come to writing the log and I decide that that's something I want to do to help me tell the story. I'm not going to do that at the moment. But the other thing which you can do, which is, I think, extremely useful, is that you can go to a point on the chart. In this case, I'll go to Channel Light Vessel, and click on it, and up pops a thing called a meteogram. Now, if you remember, I said that my friend wants to go on Saturday, tomorrow, so I don't think we're going to go today. And if I look at the wave height at Channel Light Vessel, 4 meters, that's the size of a house. No, thank you. So we'll just move that one out to the left, and now, and when we've done that, we will have a good clear view for the next 7 days ahead. And I'm afraid that in this particular instance, the seas never really go down below 2 meters. And really, I don't think I'd want to make this trip with wave heights above about 1.5 meters. So I'm afraid I'm going to ring him up and say, look, old son, I think this trip is a bad idea and we shouldn't do it. Equally, if we wanted to, we can save that, and that will save as a JPEG image which we can plonk into our log in the future. But we don't need to do that now because all the data is there in the GRIB file and it's been saved. So we don't even need to do that. But when it comes to, suppose we decided to make a mad dash, don't think we would, perhaps we say, well, maybe we could get to Cherbourg. So we'll have a look at Cherbourg and we'll go in close, and this time we'll ask it to make a GRIB on a 3-hourly interval. Same information, but I only want to go about 2 days ahead. And we'll download that. Actually, I'm going to cancel that because I noticed that this is set to the 7 days, which was very useful for the previous one, but I'm going to set it to the Mediterranean and Atlantic wave model, which I think produces slightly different results. We'll download that one. And there it is, all nicely labelled for us. And as you can see, it's changed the scale so we can see what's going on. Now, we're just going to make a dash to Cherbourg on Saturday, so we'll move the image to midday Saturday. Suppose we were to start at 6 o'clock on Saturday. The winds are lighter, but what are the waves like? Now, channel light vessels not really in the right place to look, so I'm going to move the cursor over to be on more or less the direct line from the Needles to Cherbourg, and I'm going to right click and ask for a meteo table for that point, and there it is. And as we can see, the wave height on Saturday has come down quite a lot, and it's not quite down to the 1.5 meters, but by 1800 it's back up to 3 meters on the Saturday, so that's too much. And I think that really this is going to be a bit of a mad dash, and so I'm going to recommend against it. I know he's very keen to make the trip, but I think that's going to be rather a lot. He won't be very pleased, but there we go. So let's close that. I could save that note. I could put that image in the log as well if I wanted to. So, is there any other information? Let's have a look. Let's move it on to midday on Saturday. That's at 9 o'clock. There we are. By 12 o'clock you can see that wind is beginning to pick up. It's now coming up towards the 18 to 20 knots, and it's gone into the southwest, and the wind speed is gusting to 25 knots, more or less on the nose. So I'm hoping I can persuade him not to go, because that's going to be a very, very rough trip. Now, the other thing we can do is to have a closer look at this swell problem. So we go to the weather map, we switch off the wind colours, and we switch off the wind arrows. And we go along to the C one, and we ask for significant wave height, that's colour coded now, and we have wave arrows. Let's have a look at the swell first of all. And we can see that at that particular time there is a swell coming in from the west, perhaps not so much to the north. There's no data up there. I don't know quite why that is. Maybe the weather model doesn't extend up that far. Alternatively, I could change that to the maximum wave, or the wind wave. There we are. There's the wind wave, and that's southwesterly. And the swell height is showing 1.5 to 2 meters. And this is how you can make use of this weather data, and at any stage, if I wanted to take an image of that particular map, the way I would do it is to go Alt Print Screen. That image is now on my clipboard and I can paste it anywhere. For example, I could open up a Word document. Let's do that. And paste it in. And there it is. Or I could put it into my photo processor and crop it and trim it, or do whatever I want. But there it is, ready to go into my log. And that's the point of Zygrib. All the information is compact and in detail. but it's all in a very, very accessible form, and it's all been saved so that you can look at it and perhaps look at different views, because the things that seem important now may not seem important in a few days' time or a few months' time, and vice versa. Okay, let's close that, go back to our weather map, and return it to its original state. So we'll switch off the significant wave height, and we'll switch off the wave arrows, and we'll switch back on the wind and the wind arrows. And that is how Zygrib works. I hope you found that fascinating.